Hello and welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm your host, Richie Leahy, here with my co-host, Maddie B. And NFL season is right around the corner. We did our fantasy draft, and I kept meaning to prepare and talk about it on the show. Of like, okay, these are going to be my sleepers, Pittsburgh heavy show, Pittsburgh heavy fantasy league. We do an auction style for those that are new, because we've picked up a bunch of new listeners. So we do an auction style draft. And I like that because I see a lot of people doing weird things, like for the snake draft. Like, hey, to determine our order, we have to do our own draft Olympics. Why? Why are you doing that? You're old. You don't need to be doing your own backyard obstacle course to see who gets to draft first. That's insane. And some groups I know use the previous year rankings and do a reverse NFL to try to boost it up, which is okay. But that was one of the things that I wanted to avoid when we first set this up. I'm honestly surprised that the league has honestly lasted this long. But I have fun doing it, and it really doesn't take much time to do the commissioner job, so I kind of just leave everything up for a vote. People complain, I can't do this, whatever. Just vote on it. Vote on it. So the auction draft was the one thing that I didn't leave up for a debate. I said, if I'm going to do it, I want it to be fair. Because that way, if you screw up and you waste all your money on one or two guys, it's your fault. Right? Oh, you bought Christian McCaffrey for top dollar again. Why? Why'd you do that? He's doing new clothing stuff where he's all sweaty. You know those clothes aren't going to last. He's not going to last. I think the guy had him last year was talking about how they almost won the championship. And I said, yeah, you were relying on Christian McCaffrey. You know he's not making it into the playoff weeks. If that team isn't in the playoff hunt, he's done. He is done. So you're kind of just thinking, are the Niners a good team this year? Probably not. Right? So there goes your fantasy. If you're bidding on him, you're insane. So I saw his value go down, and I thought ESPN beforehand, because we use ESPN for their thing, they have you can set your draft value. And so I thought, well, let me just see if it's going to go insane. And we had someone not show up at the beginning of the draft, which is when the high value guys are up. And I before the draft, I swear the cap, because you have a $200 limit. So the cap was 50, I think was the highest ranked guy. No, the auto bid was bidding up to $60, $70 again. And I thought, insane. Why even do the pre-draft ranking? If ESPN already has the pre-value, because you can kind of game it where if someone's not there or they drop off and their auto bid kicks in and it's a guy, you're this guy kind of stinks, but ESPN has a value at $45. You can just keep bidding and the auto bid will bid up to whatever that value is. And so then their team will be out of money and they will just stink. Right? So you kind of got to pay attention to know what you're doing. That's why I like the auction over the snake. But this year I kind of just sat back, didn't bid on any big guys. I got Lamar Jackson because I figure he has to get over the hump. Right? I have him. I have some random older vet receivers I got Nico again. He was my keeper. So we do one keeper, but it counts against your draft cap. I think I got him for 30 something last year, and he was the number one receiver till he got hurt. So I thought I have to keep him. There's no way I'm going to get him for less than 50. Right? There's only so many number one receivers in the league. And I got CJ Stroud as my backup QB to hedge my bets. I was surprised he was still around, to be honest, because his stats went down, but that was because Nico was out. So I'm hoping that they both stay healthy, and I have a good year. But I don't know. How are you feeling after the draft?
Well, I feel like it's either boom or bust, because I felt like I went in thinking I want to make sure I get a running back and two receivers. And I was able to get Marvin Harrison Jr. because Kyler Murray was my keeper.
I saw you bidding him up, and I thought, what are you doing? He was a bum for me last year.
Because I wanted the combo. and I feel like he's gonna make strides this year. And the rest of my plan kind of fell through. I did pick up an aging Travis Kelce, which I was surprised that he fell as far as he did.
Well, his value was down, and you kept bidding him up because I was going to bid on him. And then I thought, well, I don't know what Matt's doing. Is he not reading the values? Like, he's old.
No.
So, like, I don't even know if he's going to be featured, but they had him weighed on a list. I think he was like the 8th or 10th best tight end, which kind of shocked me. And I thought,
but that always makes me laugh because every year, and I bid for him, but I was like, Kyle Pitts is one of those guys that they're like, he's a freak athlete. And then you should have him ranked as your number one tight end. And then it's like, he doesn't match his production. I'm like hedging myself with him. I'm thinking at some point he has to do something.
Well, that's why I hate getting, because I already have Nico Collins, right? So I hate getting like a bunch of Michigan guys. But the one tight end that I think might blow up is Michigan's rookie Colston Loveland that went to the Bears, because that's the one thing Caleb Williams didn't have, right? An outlet. And he was playing good during preseason. And one of my buddies put him up early as like, here you go. And I'm thinking, you jerk. I was hoping that I could get him late in the round, throw him up for $1. And then it just auto goes through and everyone's out of money. And then you get him. But like people putting up guys early, it makes it tough to get a good value on a tight end that you might be able to use as a keeper. Because if Caleb Williams uses him as like who are some of the other ones that blew up? Waller. I had McBride from the Cards last year. He blew up. I almost used him as my keeper, but I had him for 40 something. Like I had more money spent on him than I did for Nico Collins. And I thought, you know what? Nico had more points or whatever at his high point. I have to keep him for like the value. And I almost got him. I thought if I can get him for 40 something, like I had him last year, because I had my values up that I spent last year. I thought if I can get him for the same, I'll keep him. But McBride, someone bid him way up over what I paid last year for him too, and I thought, you don't know.
Yeah, that was where we got into that power show, because I was trying to match some Cardinals receivers with him, and you just kept bidding for him.
Well, it wasn't even me. I gave up. I don't know who were bidding these guys up, because I thought there were a couple tight ends that I thought, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and get it. I ended up with Kraft from Green Bay, I think, and I thought, like, I didn't even want to spend money on him. You know, like I just went a guy that last year was getting some points, you know, and every guy is getting way bid up. And I thought I can get a better like wide receiver for that. So that's what I ended up doing, is getting some like Devonta Smith for like cheaper, and guys like that I know have put up points and that might be a good flex play that could win you the championship. Because like I won with Devonta Smith being like my third or fourth receiver, and I'm surprised some of those guys were falling. And it's like, all right, I have to try, right? I can't, if it's a guy that I know is going to be a good, reliable guy that's never really hurt, I have to try. It's the guys that keep getting hurt that like scare me away. Because even Derrick Henry, I thought, you know what, I can get Derrick Henry. And everyone kept bidding him up, and I'm like, every time I have him, he kind of gets hurt. I can't overbid. Like whatever ESPN had on there, I can't overbid over that. So we'll see. I ended up getting, like I threw up Roman Wilson as a joke, and I ended up getting him from the Steelers, and now I'm like, I hope he plays. So I'm like looking at the depth chart, like, did he get cut and I didn't know about it? But he's listed as a third receiver, and for $1, I was like, all right, well, you never know with Aaron Rodgers, right? He spreads the ball around, so that could be a good flex play, I was hoping. But yeah, someone threw up JJ early, because I had originally thought maybe I'd get him, but then when I got Stroud, because someone threw up JJ before Stroud, and to me that was mind-blowing. Like, JJ hasn't played at all. I know he has Jefferson, but like, why would you not take the guy that got to the AFC Championship game as your QB and has a lot of weapons around him? I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe it's like the ESPN effect where they're talking about other guys that I don't know about. I've seen a lot of hype for JJ, but I mean, I'm a JJ fan, but I don't know if I'd trust him to to be wasting like more money than, because he was bid over $5 at the end. I think I got Stroud for like 1 or 2. So I was like, you jokers, who's gonna buy more, pay more for JJ, or like even Aaron Rodgers getting bid up. And I thought he's not going to do better than Stroud probably. And that's my backup after Lamar. Because I figured if Lamar gets hurt, but he scored so many points ahead of everyone else that it's worth it to take a flyer on a guy like that. I wanted Josh Allen for the same reason last year, and then he didn't match that production. And so I was kind of glad I didn't get him. But this year I thought, you know what? That's what I was missing last year, quarterback. Let's get my top guy and mix it up a little bit. Because sometimes I go 2 running backs, but every time I go 2 running backs, one of my guys gets hurt. Derrick Henry. Like Eckler got hurt the one year. David Johnson got hurt. So it's like every time I get 2, I kind of need the other one. I think Breece Hall might have got hurt that one year. And now he's kind of fallen off. And I was like, I could have kept him too, but I don't know with the Jets. Like the quarterback situation's so bad. Like, do you trust Fields to get your running backs any production? No. I don't know. Because even with the Giants, some of their players were going high, like Neighbors, I think. And it's like Russell Wilson's the QB, isn't he? Or is it Jameis? Isn't Jameis behind Russell?
Start?
I mean, I don't trust that situation.
They just keep holding Jameis down.
Well, a lot of guys were going back to like their original team I saw. Like we talked about Thielen last week, and I said the Panthers weren't going to let him go. And then they must have heard the show and thought, you know what, we'll spite these guys. We'll trade him right away for nothing. He ended up taking a pay cut because he thought Carolina's so bad, I need to get out of here. Right? I'll take a pay cut. I don't care. I just need to get out of here. And I mean, I agree with him. Right? Why not? Just get out of here and go back to the Vikings. You know, JJ's getting that hype. And you have Jefferson. You can put up some numbers. And I don't even know if I think he did get drafted, but I'm not 100% sure. Like he could be a guy you just pick up on the free agent wire and he ends up tearing it up. Because, I mean, JJ's pretty good at checking down, right?
Yeah, you'd think.
I don't even have the app installed on my phone. I was looking to see if I could find out which guys. We'll do pickups next week because I know after the first week, I would have noticed every year there's a huge overreaction. Like people put a guy in, they think he's going to play. He doesn't. Like, I mean, I lose a lot of week 1s because I think, you know what? This team's going to be good. And then for whatever reason, maybe because I play like a lot of vets, they don't get used in the first week. And so like they ease in and my guys are getting 5 points like Derrick Henry. And then once he gets warmed up in the middle of the year, then he's on fire. And it's like, dang, if I would have won that first week or 2, but you got to stay calm. Like you can't just overreact and start cutting people or start trading people. That's when you get into a downfall because then you're playing catch up.
Well, to a certain extent, I agree. I think the one thing that really jumps out early is if you can get, especially with a league like ours, you want to try to focus on like who's going to be a starter. I think like the running back starters in particular are really big, where a guy gets hurt and it's like immediately that backup's going to see 3 times the production. So it's like trying to time it right to where you can get that replacement number 2 or number 3 running back that's going to get more touches. And that's something that can really like springboard your team.
And we also play PPR, which is another secret because you never know. Like when the Steelers had Le'Veon Bell, he was an every down back, right? Because he could catch real good. So he was valued higher. But with new like coaches moving around and different offensive philosophies, you never know if the guy you get is going to play every down or if the third down back might end up taking or scoring more points just because he's taking a lot of like the pass checkdowns on third down. Like, was it Stevenson that one year I had for the Patriots, I think? Right when he was a rookie? He came in, I picked him up because I noticed that, I don't even know who the starting running back was, but they were like getting their offense stunk, right? So that first guy was getting no points. He was getting tore up. But Stevenson would have like 10 checkdowns a game for a good 10 points. And having that as like your running back number 2 sometimes is awesome. Especially if you can't get a guy or your number 1 guy gets hurt. And then, of course, they're going to score every once in a while too. So then he's like up in the top 10 in like running back production. And he's not even the starter. But that depends on PPR. If you don't have PPR, then it might not matter. Because then in the reverse is if you have no PPR and there's a team that has a goal line back that only scores touchdowns, that could be worth it. Right? Because you get 1 or 2 touchdowns a game and then you're golden. Because you always hear like, well, they got this fullback. Wasn't it like the Niners had that Polish guy that was only down there? Then they got McCaffrey.
Yeah.
As a guy, was it like Juszczyk or whatever? I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, you have guys like that you can pick up. I think his girlfriend did the Taylor Swift jacket or something. That's another thing I know about the guy. Right? Stupid stuff. But yeah, I'm excited about the first week. I don't see the hype on Dallas. I also don't like the move from Micah Parsons by the Packers. Not going to lie. They didn't call up Paul.
Did you see the news about his back?
Yeah, that's why I didn't get the ownership call on that, because he has a back injury. They're going to just inject him, and then he might play. I'm like, dude, you were paying so much for this guy. He better play, and he better be healthy, or I'm going to go in and vote to go veto that trade. Right? Did our front office know that he had this back injury? It's like a bum deal, right?
Well, they're like everyone's been dogging Jerry Jones over giving him away, but it was like he has that type of injury, and then he made out like a bandit.
And I got to agree with Jerry Jones. Did you see the thing where he talked about the negotiating style? Where it's like, Micah kept wanting to indict these other guys in the meetings. It's like, why? What do you mean? Why do you need your whole crew in here negotiating? Because like, I'm sure some guy not knowing what the heck he's doing is in there saying, oh, you know what? This is like a different thing. Maybe we need a different rider in here, buddy. Maybe you need a golf cart driving you to practice every day. Yeah, that sounds good. And then Jerry Jones is like, what are you doing here? Who are you? Because I saw that. I forget who it was. So one of the recruiting day flips, I think it was last year, they talked about how there was a big flip and everyone thought he was going to go to one school and not the other. But apparently, one thing I read, and I can't remember who it was or if this is even true, but they said that when they went to set up the announcement or whatever at the school that he was going to go to, he had like a cousin or an uncle that he was like really close to that he wanted to be there. And they were like, we didn't get a family pass for him. Like, we only want your immediate family. And like, that was enough for him to be like, this my bro. He's like here with everything. It's one more guy. And the school's like, nah, we can't do that. So then he flipped and they lost like a top recruit because of it. It's like, it only takes one mistake to just annoy someone enough. Because like, I'm all the NIL stuff, I'm doing whatever. But I'm sure the NFL's free agency is kind of the same way. Because they got to promise you playing time. Especially like Parsons, like they're doing a long-term deal. They're giving him a record contract or whatever. Has to be available. He's like, oh, by the way, my back hurts while I'm here. And they're like, is that from carrying the Cowboys? Ha 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 ha. Like, I wonder if someone made a joke like that. Just to annoy me, right?
Well, I would think they had to have had some medical personnel, because I don't even think the league will allow trades like that to go on unless they pass physical.
Well, I'm wondering if it's like a pre-known thing, though, or if it happened after. But I saw him practicing. So it could just be, they made it sound scarier than what I think it might be in the recap. Or in like the news breakdown, trade breakdown. And I almost wonder if the Cowboys kind of push that out to the media as like a way, because you're right, they're getting hammered by everyone for the trade. So if they leak out that his back hurts, even if it's not bad, but if you just say like add vertebrae in there, people that don't know, like us, they're going to be like, well, that sounds bad. right? And all they
Yeah.
mean is he had like a tender spot there that a masseuse could work it out. So I don't know. We'll see. They're gonna do a shot. I don't know if you'd want to mess up your back, but he's still young, right? When did he play at Penn State?
Yeah.
He played for Franklin, right?
Yeah.
So, and you know Franklin knows ball, so his guys have to be good. Any other NFL stuff you want to talk about?
No, I'm curious to see how the Rodgers debut is for Pittsburgh.
There's a lot of QBs I want to kind of see what happens. Cam Ward, I think he's starting right. JJ starting. Aaron Rodgers is starting. I think Fields is starting. So you have a lot of storylines across the league where you have new quarterbacks. I think Sam Darnold's starting in Seattle, right? So a lot of teams are moving around players. Russell Wilson in New York. How are these pieces all going to fit together? Because you know they're not all going to work out. Not every team is going to be good. And that's where it comes down to like Jaden Daniels. He going to be good again? I don't know. Caleb Williams, they're giving him some weapons, like tight end outlets, like I mentioned. He going to be able to put it together year two? Or is it going to look more of like a mismatch what he ran in college where it's kind of like he's good, but he doesn't do enough to win? Right? Never made the playoffs. I mean, Jaden Daniels never made anything at LSU either, so you don't know. Right? But
Yeah.
again, guys can make the playoffs as a quarterback. Joe Burrow made it to the championship game, right? Just like Daniels. He hasn't been back. I mean, he might have been back to the playoffs, but he hasn't done anything.
No.
And there's a lot of guys like that. I mean, I could throw Stroud in there too. Like, maybe that's why some of these guys are falling off, but there's not enough spots, especially in the AFC. Because I got a question come in from the mailbag. Someone asked how I think my boy Harbaugh is going to do this year with Herbert. Are they going to be able to get over the hump? And honestly, I don't know. The AFC is so loaded that I said it the entire time when he was like kind of hinting around that he was going to go to the NFL. Go to the NFC. I mean, if he would have landed in the Vikings and then they get JJ the next year, that would have been a great work. Like that would have worked out perfect for him. I mean, JJ might not have won the national championship if Harbaugh had left for the NFL a year earlier. You don't know. And then otherwise, what if he would have went to Washington? Had Jaden Daniels, would they have made the championship game last year? Maybe not. Right? Harbaugh's kind of like a more conservative guy with his quarterbacks. I don't know if he would have let Jaden Daniels throw it all over the place. So you don't know. So like he needs a guy like Herbert that at this point he knows that he has to win. He's going to listen to the coach, play within a system, and try to get it done. I just think there are too many good AFC quarterbacks that also need to get it done. Lamar, Josh Allen, that I don't think this is the year for Harbaugh. If he would win the Super Bowl, I think that would be case closed, one of the greatest coaches of all time. Because who can turn the Chargers around and win a Super Bowl? Not many people, right?
Right.
I don't think they've ever won a Super Bowl. Have they?
No.
They made it once and Steve Young killed them.
Yes, he did.
So, I don't know. I think that in terms of like if I was gambling, I wouldn't bet on the Chargers as much as I like Harbaugh. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't see it. They have Najee Harris, like they got him in there. That's another guy that I want to see how he does.
Yeah, but Harris only has one eye right now.
Yeah, but they said he's better. I got an alert that he's going to play. Maybe I read it wrong. Maybe it's like he's going to be ready. But like if there's going to be a guy that could be revived in a career, like in your running back, you'd play for Harbaugh. I mean, there are some systems where it's like, that's why I'm kind of low on the Lions right now. They lose Johnson, the offensive coordinator. He goes to the Bears. That's why I was intrigued about getting Loveland in fantasy because of how he used his weapons in Detroit, right on the offensive side of things. And so, yeah, I was even thinking about Odunze. I might even have got Odunze. I can't remember which receivers I ended up getting for that same reason. And I saw the Lions preseason. They did not look good. I know it was only the preseason and they could just turn it on. But a different offensive system could mess up your entire team in the NFL. I know it's not drastically different. Like in college, you're going from like some team running like the option to like, oh, I'm transferring from Georgia Tech to this pro style, or I'm doing like a weird wildcat offense. Like in college, it's a lot different with the transfer portal. With the NFL, everyone's kind of running the same thing. That's why teams can like just trade guys in the middle of the year and they don't miss a game and they can come out on fire and know what they're doing. So I'm curious to see how that works out though, because there is something to say for in-game adjustments and strategy. And if the Bears end up being good, how much of that Lions success could you place on him? Because Goff was going high. I saw Goff went high in our league, and I thought, I don't know if I trust that at all.
Yeah, really.
Because that's the one unknown. Like, you lose your OC. Your team traded you away to get an old Matt Stafford to win a Super Bowl, and they pulled it off.
Although that was why I went with Swift, because I was like, he's familiar with the scheme, and they've had success with it. I was like, maybe that's where I get my running back gold.
That's where I was. You outbid me for him because I think I was out of money, but I was thinking the same thing. So I think you might have been onto something there. I didn't say anything because we have like a live video call meeting thing during the draft, and I thought, you know what, I'm trying not to give my strategy on all these guys, but I thought that Swift draft pick might work out for you well. But I know I said no more things I had for the NFL, but I think that is it for the NFL. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, we're good.
And I skipped right into it. So what's your update on your coaching stuff, dude? How's that been going?
So the big thing, we got another shutout this week. We came out the first drive, and I thought, oh man, the team we were playing had some pretty big kids, and our halfback got spiked first play, got thrown to the ground. I was like, oh, that's not good. We were like, all right, test it outside. Let's try something inside. Ran inside. Fullback got smashed. I was like, oh no, this could be trouble. But then we started opening some things up and started moving the ball. We got up 2 scores at halftime. We ended up winning 28-0. But it was like a little early scare. The kids were like kind of shell shocked at first. Like, come on, you can play. Let's go. And turned it out and put us at 2-0 on the season.
And what age group are you working with now?
This is 3rd and 4th grade.
Okay. That's why I was confused myself last time because I'm like, I never keep it straight. So I wanted to get that out there.
Well, and it's such a huge transition year for the kids, because to go from flag 1st and 2nd grade into that first year of tackle, there's just so much adjustment to wearing pads, to hitting, that it's been interesting to see, because some of the kids that I thought for sure were going to just eat it up and really be hard hitters and shied away. And it's definitely been an adjustment.
Well, that's good. How many games do you guys have? You said you're 2-0?
We're what's crazy is this is going to be like the midway point of our regular season.
So you only have 6 games?
You have 6 games and then playoffs. So we could have another 2 or 3.
All right. Well, that's good. Keep us posted and let us know how it goes.
Yeah, varsity wise was a rough one. We ended up losing and just gave up too many splash plays. Like I said, it was one of the harder films that I've had to grade, because there were so many parts of plays that broke down. It was like there's a rollout and the quarterback had like 2 seconds. So it's like, it's hard to give him a negative grade, but it's like he didn't even have a minute to diagnose what coverage they were in, let alone make a play.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit frustrating, but I feel like just having a good week to return to basics and just really drill some fundamental stuff has been good for us so far this week.
Well, that's good. Do you feel like you're going to make playoffs this year?
I don't know. It's tough being in the conference that we're in now because there's so many teams that have either a co-op or they're a class bigger. So I mean, even to go 4-6 can potentially put you into the playoffs because of the extra points for winning games. So I mean, it's definitely a possibility. There's some games out there that we should compete in, but it just depends on how healthy we stay and if we can get the bounces when we need them.
Yeah, that's good. I know the point system has always confused me because you never quite know. And a lot of teams that have losing records do get in because strength of schedule. But I wonder if that's something that the college football playoff ultimately starts to do. I know they try for basketball, and then it seems like sometimes they throw that ranking out. They're like, oh, you know what? We are going to put Syracuse in. Like randomly, and they're like way low, and it's like, well, they have had success in the past, and it's like, all right, just say you're picking teams that you like, that have a good fan base that you know are going to watch TV, right? That's all you can say is, hey, we're just putting these guys in, just because.
Well, and I think that like that's one of the I've been trying to think of what would be a better way of evaluating your top 25, but the thing that really pisses me off with it is that when you front load 5 or 6 SEC and Big Ten teams in there, you set the table so that you say, well, our strength of schedule is better. It's like, yeah, no shit. You put it in a bunch of slugs in the early part of the year, and you have them like sitting right on the cusp so that when random school A beats this one, you can be like, all right, well, this team's out, but now we're going to have this one in instead. So you still have a number of teams in the top 25.
Well, I don't know if we need to throw the Big Ten in there. We're a pro Big Ten show, right, buddy?
I'll throw them both under there. I don't give a rip.
I was going to talk about that just because it's insane. The ESPN ranking, I know I feel like I'm hounding on it a couple weeks in a row about the ESPN bias, but I think their FPI is what they call it, like their advanced metric. You can tell that they are just promoting the SEC with it. Because after the first week of games, they have Texas still ranked number 1. And there's no way, if you watch that Ohio State game, Texas was not efficient at all. There's no ranking, there's no power thing. Heck, they kept showing the stat during every other game that Arch Manning missed 30% of his passes, which is like an insanely high rate that Texas hasn't hit in over a decade. You can't tell me that you looked at the advanced metrics of efficiency is what they're supposed to really be looking at and say, you know what? Texas is number 1, right? Because with the functioning quarterback, I watched the game. They had guys open. Ohio State, for all the stuff they talked about Patricia and their defense, Texas really should have won that game pretty easily. And it was almost comical to watch because I wasn't impressed by either teams. And the fact that, yeah, I get it. They beat Texas. Texas was number 1. You're going to jump them to number 1 in the AP. I didn't think that they looked as good as Penn State. And I know Penn State played Nevada. Are they really that bad? I don't know. But I will say one thing. Both quarterbacks in that game were very inaccurate. Yeah, it could be the defenses. Yeah, it could be rust week 1. But come on, ESPN, you're not even hiding it at this point. Like, promoting Florida so high, I'm like, what have they done? They haven't been recruiting well. So, like, I know that's a fact. So, like, where are they coming from? How are you putting them so high? I think even the AP had them up above Florida State, and I thought, why? What has Florida done
Yes.
remotely recently that they should be ahead of Florida State right now?
That was part of my argument, and then I felt like the more that I looked at it, I'll give the benefit of the doubt. You get 2. You get 2 in that higher tier, because realistically, you can't tell me that there's 3 teams from a conference that would run the slate of every other conference. And I think that like that's where there has to be somewhat of a line drawn.
Well, see, even when Ohio State won in 2014 with Urban Meyer, they lost to like a 6-6 Virginia Tech at home, I think.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, you can't tell me that it's hard to go undefeated no matter what. If you're in a lesser conference, yeah, it might be a little bit easier. But, I mean, honestly, it's still going to be hard. That's why you have these other teams getting upset, or like, was it Kansas State really should have lost to an FCS school that probably isn't even ranked that high, right? Like that should have been a gimme game. And the fact that they blew it, it's like insane to me.
For as dominant as what Alabama has been, even during their peak national championship run, they were always losing to like a Georgia, an Auburn. Like there was always some random loss on their schedule that they ended up finding their way, like backdooring their way into the playoff.
I mean, they backdoored their way into the playoff in 2023, and that's kind of why I was pro Florida State. And if Florida State would have beat Georgia, I think they should have claimed a split natty, even at the detriment of Michigan. So it's like, okay, yeah, why is Bama in here with one loss? And I saw, and I don't want to knock Florida State because I'm still not sold on Norvell. I just don't understand like how a team can be so bad, like only win 2 games. And I mean, didn't have a tough schedule last year. They should at least be 6-6 as a floor.
Well, you know what? I can tell that you don't watch Florida State at all.
Why?
Because I'll answer that for you. When you run the most vanilla defense in the entire universe, that'll do it to you.
But see, that's like the coach. The coach should be in there though.
But I feel like when you look at, and it's only been a small sample, which is why I'm still waiting to see a little bit more of a sample size. But I felt like all of the reports from the defensive side were very positive, and how they were using players and scheming that I thought was going to be helpful, because there were so many times that they just sat in a too high shell and just let guys run stick routes underneath. And it was just like catch and run, and never adjusted to it. It was just like, this is just what we're going to be in, and we're just going to ride out base, and you're either going to kill us or we're going to get lucky.
The Don Brown style, bro.
And I feel like with offensively, where you have someone in Malzahn that has a system that has been successful, and he doesn't have to deal with all the other, like he's been successful as a coordinator. His run as a head coach, I think he's been one that he wants to stay in the X's and O's. And I almost feel like it's a Chip Kelly type situation where he can just go back to just coaching the offensive side of the ball. He can have his guys. He doesn't have to deal with any of the other nonsense. Like, it plays to his advantage.
And that's where I think, I mean, I saw that article come out about like, oh, Alabama should have hired Norvell instead. And I was thinking, they didn't really consider Norvell. Like, that was like a play to get a better contract. And even last year, it was like, okay, no one would have been clamoring for Norvell last year. It's only one game. Heck, for all we know, both teams could end up 6-6 or something. But I do know that Florida State, with that quarterback they got from Boston College, right?
Yes.
He lost a job last year. I don't think he lost it really because of his play. It was more of like a philosophy difference. He's kind of a playmaker. And credit to Norvell, he lets the players play. He goes for it. Like, he tries to win. And that's like the one thing I like in coaches. Trust me, as much as I talk about Harbaugh on the show, there were some frustrating games where he's like, you know what? We're just going to grind it out. And you're just sitting there and you're like, oh my gosh. And that's how you get punt block returns for touchdowns to like get upset and like weird games like that, because you're playing not to lose at the end of the game instead of just crushing them, which I think he finally came around to later before he hopped to the NFL. So Norvell is already doing that. Yeah, you could lose, but then you could also win bigger and go up by 2 scores, and then that's the game, and it's over, right? And then it makes Alabama look worse. And I mean, honestly, DeBoer, I thought sometimes it's a culture fit. I've said it before. I'm not going to knock him. He took Washington to the national championship game. If Michigan went a new direction, I would have been 100% on board with him as Michigan's coach. I know I've joked about them having just like an Alabama staff or an Indiana staff at Alabama. Maybe that's where you start to make some changes after year one. I don't know if he really did. And so that's going to put him behind because, yeah, you take your staff with you from Washington. You just played in the national championship game. Last year, there were some red flags late in the year. You had no business losing to Michigan that had no offense. I don't think they passed for 100 yards. I think I saw that Florida State didn't either. It was like Alabama losses with under 100 yards. It was like Michigan, Florida State, like some other schools. And it's like, oh, that makes sense because these guys are just running the ball down Alabama's throat, right? You went on the line of scrimmage. Bama couldn't beat Michigan in the line of scrimmage in the playoffs. They couldn't beat him in the ReliaQuest Bowl or whatever that bowl was. They couldn't stop Florida State. And it's the same thing. If you lose the line of scrimmage, that's going to be it. And the one thing that people forget with NIL is Alabama was stacking number one recruiting classes. You have 5-star linemen backing up 5-star linemen. And all of a sudden, that's gone. You don't have that. And so even though they're complaining that, oh, we don't have the talent we used to have, they're still like number one or near the top in team talent composite. There's really no business why these guys shouldn't be developed. It's 100% on coaching. Maybe it's culture. And I saw people were singling out players, which sometimes I don't like that because like you're singling out a play, guy's not hustling or whatever, saying like Saban wouldn't put up with this. It's like, all right, well, he was, like you said, he was losing a game every year, right? It wasn't like they were just like a juggernaut. And I feel like people just forget that. And I'm not anti-Saban. I just think I try to give him a reality check on the show because people revere him so high, but it's not like he was unstoppable. They just lucked into a system where you could back into a playoff and you having the number one recruiting class every year. That's kind of strange, right? Nah, this is like, oh, Alabama, weren't they always recruiting well? They weren't really that good in the 90s. And I noticed, like I've been talking about it, the teams now with NIL that haven't been good with that SEC rise, all of a sudden are good again. Like the 90s, you had Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State battling it out, Miami, Florida State, Notre Dame. All of a sudden, these teams that aren't in the SEC are good again? Randomly, whenever you can't just pay players under the table? And like, it's not like Bagman stories weren't out there or the photos of players with cars or cash or whatever. So anyone that I hear crying about like, the sport's not the same, I don't love it anymore. You don't like having one team stacked? Like, to me, that was what was making it boring for a while. In the 2000, like around that 2007 season where it was like complete mayhem and like the backyard brawl of all games decided the national championship play-in, right? Like that, is that going to happen this year? Probably not. But what if TCU is actually really good? They go into UNC, they have all the hype, and they put a smackdown on Belichick. But what if TCU makes the playoffs and they go undefeated in the Big 12? Big 12 has not looked good. They clearly look like, if anyone has watched Big 12 games, which I have, because whatever, I'm like crazy. I watch a lot of weird games, right? Their teams have not looked good. The only team that has been impressive has been TCU. Iowa State has not looked good. They're playing Iowa. Game day's going there, I think. They could lose. Like Cincinnati lost to Nebraska. There's like a lot of like weird games that they had. And even when they won, their conference just hasn't looked like they had a standout team other than TCU. There's a good chance TCU rips through that conference. Oh, wait, actually, I'm throwing... Who was the other one I watched? Utah? Did Utah kill UCLA? Is that who played them? They're still in the Big 12, I think.
Yeah, I believe so.
If I'm taking a bet right now, it's TCU and Utah for the Big 12 championship. I think they have a playing championship game, maybe. The Nico transfer to UCLA, I mean, we knew that wasn't going to work out. You don't, I mean, if anything, you would have went to USC, right? You want to be closer to home. You go to a school that, you know, produces offense. They put up a ton of points. And Lincoln Riley was joking about, like, if we get shut out or something, our average points per game will still be in the 30s next week. And I think, that's what you're thinking of? Like, of all the things you could be thinking in the post game, you're making a joke about your team losing the next week. Get out of here. Stay focused. Dude, I know Michigan has to play there, so I don't want to talk too much trash on them in case we end up losing. But what are you doing? Right? You're making the Big Ten look bad with comments like that. That's something James Franklin would say. He always says, like, Kent State, we got to play Kent State. Okay, buddy, we get it. You don't play Pitt or West Virginia this year, do you? The schedule looks pretty weak. You're going to it, but I agree. Until the other conferences play a 9-game schedule, weaken that up. Weaken it up. Right? Go undefeated. Because then if you go undefeated and win the championship, undisputed. I keep seeing people like try to say. What'd you say?
As long as your quarterback stays healthy.
Yeah, that's the big key. You got to have a healthy quarterback. Otherwise, you could get left out. But if you explained it enough, they won't leave you out. You'll just get a bad seed, right? So, but that's what I'm wondering, because like now with the SEC going to a 9-game schedule, the ACC, to my knowledge, still hasn't backed down, right? They're like, we'll go to a 9-game maybe. If the SEC doesn't, then they're like, we don't really want to though. Because we know we're going to get left out of the playoffs if we do. But again, SMU's been looking pretty good. And all it takes is one team to break through, like Clemson, and then another team to break through. And then you have 2 teams maybe that are just at the top that people are looking up to and saying, like, these teams are really competing. That's where, like, even now with Penn State, they haven't broken through, and Oregon hasn't broken through. But since the Big Ten has 2 teams that have won the national championship, and then 2 teams that are knocking on the door, now all of a sudden, the Big Ten is seen as like one of the top, if not the top conference right now, and it's driving people in the South nuts. They don't know what to do. Because last week was awful for the SEC. Bama goes down, Texas goes down, both look completely awful. And there were people predicting both as national champs. Like, it's a legit chance, right? It's like, these guys are going to go undefeated. They're going to be by far the best team. Because you look at talent, and it looks like they do. And so now everyone's kind of shifting and saying, like, well, I got to be Georgia now. Or how good is really Tennessee? We don't know. They schedule like Syracuse of all teams. And they put a hurting on them, but they didn't really pull away. And that was one of the games I watched too. And I kept thinking, like, they're going to bury them. And then they never did. And they kept saying about, like, Syracuse could come back. And I thought, they're not going to come back. Who are we kidding here? This is a Q's. So I really don't know what to think. The Big Ten had their struggles too. So I'm not knocking, like, Rutgers, Wisconsin. Some of these teams, Nebraska even, I brought them up for beating Cincinnati. But in reality, they could have easily won that game with any competent offensive strategy. I don't know what they were doing. Same with, like, on the ACC side, NC State could have pulled away and just crushed ECU. And instead they were like, you know what? We're going to do nothing. And we're going to blow this game. And ECU's coach drives down the field and has all 3 timeouts. It's what? 4th and short. And there's a minute and a half left. Instead of just going up, he's going in for the game-winning touchdown, right? I think it was a game-winning touchdown, unless it was to tie it. But he's going down, and all he has to do, his guys are up at the line. Just run the play. If you don't get it, you have 3 timeouts. You can stop NC State. You know they're going to turtle, right? You know they're not going to get the first down. They punt it. You have 45 seconds to try again. But instead, he burns a timeout, and then they miss even the punt return by 1 second. So he burns a timeout, and then he runs an out route, like a pick play, basically. Not even to the sticks. not even to the sticks. His guy is 2 yards short of the sticks, and they get flagged for the pick play anyway, so they don't get the first down. NC State takes over, and then, like I said, gets down, and they knee with like 1 second over from having to punt. And I thought, that's 100% on East Carolina's coach. They need a guy that's in the booth, all of these teams do, that's telling them, bro, you have 3 timeouts. Get your team up there and run a play. You've been gashing them with the hurry-up offense. Why are you setting up and then calling timeout and running the worst play in the history? Like Clemson ran that in the national championship in 2016 or 2017, 18? It's almost been 10 years, buddy. So that's some of the tidbits on the games I've watched. I honestly was not really that impressed. Wasn't really impressed by Clemson or LSU. I'm hoping that this year is a year that is wide open, because I think that's where NIL has been going, because teams are going out. They're taking the depth away. So a team like Florida State that's near the top 10. Were you guys in the top 10 of the talent composite that I sent? I don't think so. I think you're right outside it, like maybe 14th or something.
Yeah.
So they're close enough where now we can see teams in the teens. They're able to compete with teams that are in the top 3 or whatever. Bama, Georgia, and Ohio State are still in the top 3, I think, overall rosters. And so, I mean, Texas is creeping up there. And I'm not knocking Arch. I'm not knocking Alabama. Like, I think Florida State played well enough that if they sneak into playoffs, that's a dangerous team. And that's what I want to see more of, right? If Clemson can't get it done, because their quarterback play just seems like so scatterbrained ever since Trevor Lawrence left, where it's like 1 week the guy looks awesome. The next week, he's like just throwing boneheaded picks, or like they like not even giving him any open receivers. They're just like launching the ball downfield. And I'm like, what are they running here? And it's like, well, our quarterback stinks. And it's like, yeah, you guys only won the championship because you had 2 generational quarterbacks. That's it. Like, that's Clemson. You guys got lucky as hell. You should be pumped about that, right? I've said it. Auburn got lucky with Cam Newton. I'm hoping Michigan gets lucky with
Auburn. Clearly paid for Cam Newton.
Doesn't matter. Paying's legal now, bro. Like, all you need is one rocket guy. It doesn't always work out. Worked out with Joe Burrow. Didn't work out with Jaden Daniels. Didn't work out with Caleb Williams. I mean, sometimes the guys didn't work out with CJ Stroud. I mean, looking back, is JJ a generational quarterback? Maybe. I mean, he threw 2 pick sixes in that one playoff game. Could they have had back-to-backs? Like, you don't know. You need a quarterback that is risky enough to make the big plays, but hopefully doesn't turn it over. And I didn't see that in Arch. It was almost like a dink and dunk fest. And I know you text me, you're joking about, hey, you still hope the Steelers get him in the draft. And honestly, dude, I ended up watching a good bit of Arch Manning high school film after that game for some reason. Because like I said, I have a problem. And I noticed that,
yeah.
like...
I'm glad that at least you're admitting it.
I noticed that his mechanics and like some of his throwing motions are not good. And it's kind of baffling, because I don't know if it's a confidence thing or if like it's a Sark thing. They're kind of always putting him a little bit on the run where he's out of the pocket. He's like making a sidearm throw, like a Patrick Mahomes. And it's not really accurate. Like before coming in, he had like a more pro style throwing motion. So I don't know if it's something with that. Is it just because they're rolling out to the wrong side? I saw Belichick do that. They have a lefty quarterback, right? That dude rolled out to the right side like 10 times, I think. I could be way exaggerating. But, I mean, I'm a lefty, so I know, like, the coach just had the playbook for a right-handed quarterback. And then I saw someone else noticed it, too. And they said, the crazy thing is, both quarterbacks that they played are left-handed. So all their offensive coordinator had to do was just flip the play. Why are you having your guy roll out to the right and then have to throw back across his body? You know how hard that is?
I was talking about that recently, though, and I feel like from a quarterback standpoint, it makes a little bit more sense than you might think, because if you're right-handed and you're rolling out to your left, it's going to naturally force you to have to open your hips to throw the ball. So it's almost like winding a rubber band.
Yeah, you'd square up better, right? But your momentum's still carrying you depending on how hard you're running. If it might work if there's no defender running you down. But like the one UNC play, there was a guy bearing down on him. He barely got the ball off, and he threw right into like triple coverage. And I thought, that's a horrible play. Like, who designed that? It was like a drag mesh route across like almost like a waggle type thing. And I was like, what are you doing? So I do get that because I think Kirk Ferentz used to run that a lot. You know, I'm a fan, right? Where he'd have Brad Banks kind of just do like a quasi rollout and then set up more of like a pro style. And I think that works well because then your quarterback is definitely set and they're not like goofing around with like their footwork. And then you can throw that way. But when you're doing a full sprint out, I don't know. I disagree with you on that, dude. Because there's no way this guy from UNC was going to be anywhere completing any of those passes when they did that.
Well, now I make my comment to say the full rollout, like running for your life, if he's going side to side, like completely left to right or right to left, is a bit of a challenge. But I think if you can get enough depth, a lot of it boils down to depth. If you can get a deeper drop, that when you're rolling out, you can really open your hips. I think there is some merit there to being able to lay it out and put a little bit more on it.
You know, you should make a video of you rolling out and seeing how far you can throw different drops and different speeds and see if it works or not.
I like where your head's at.
Like one of those trash can vids that the quarterbacks have, but you're like an old guy doing it, like a Uncle Rico, and you're just like doing whatever. Is that guy from Napoleon Dynamite? I don't even know his name.
Yeah.
So that's what you need to do. Hey, I'm Coach Matt. I'm showing you some quarterback drills. And then Bill Belichick, I might have eligibility left, buddy.
Like a late season Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah, you get in. You can get called up to the show. Coach might bring you down, right? I saw he had his girlfriend on the sideline. Does that count as a coach? If she's talking to players?
I don't know what it counts as. Weird. There's probably players that are the same age as her.
You know what? There were so many posts about it, and they kept talking about it on the show. And I think McMurphy was just tweeting nonstop about the age gap. And I thought, these guys are just jealous, right? There's no way you're whatever. I don't know how old that guy is, 50 years old, 60 years old. There's no way you're a sports reporter that is that old. Like, the jokes aren't coming across as funny. It's just a weird obsession you have, dude. Right? At some point, yeah, we get it. If you're making 20 tweets within a span of like 5 minutes, there's something wrong. And it wasn't, I'm not just calling out him. There's a bunch of reporters and stuff, even during the show, like they were awkwardly talking about it. And it's like, yeah, we get it. Like, okay. What's the difference? Like, if that's his girlfriend or what's her motive? Like, who cares what the motive is, right? They're obviously stayed together for like, at least a year now. She's there. She's at the game. She's hanging out with them. It's not like she's like on like a beach somewhere and just like he's sending her money or something. Like, and even if that was the case, why would you care if you're in the media? Like the sports media, like leave personal like lives out of it. I don't understand it. I don't get it. Who cares? They have to just be jealous. That's the only thing I can think of. They're thinking, I wish that was me. I wish they would just say it like, if I had to ask one question, like, why are you making all those jokes? Like, you think it's funny? Because, like, I don't see people, like, retweeting it and, like, laughing. It's just, like, a constant stream of, like, look at that. Look how weird it is. Okay. We get it. We got it the first time, like, last year when all the jokes were there. Heck, I mean, I have a photo of her as the mermaid as my fantasy team, right? But I'm not obsessively tweeting about it just because I think that's funny, right? Coach is out there with the pipe. He's smoking. He's hooking it in. That's going to be me hooking another championship. That's the way I look at that. Confidence, dude. I feel like these other guys just don't have the confidence to do something like that, maybe. I don't know. The obsession was weird, and I hope we don't have to go through it all year because like some of the reporters and like them talking about it maybe being a factor and like Belichick being awesome and the fact that they put that game on the Monday night Labor Day game and it was a dud is just hilarious to me. People were watching for Belichick and they had way more people watching because of his girlfriend. And so that's a win for UNC sports no matter what way you look at it. That's a win for the ACC or whatever. Because I don't know if we talked about this. I've been told that UNC is really making that push to join the SEC. I thought for sure personally that they were going to make that jump to the Big Ten, but I've been told otherwise that no, it's going to be right now. If they make a jump, it's going to be the SEC, and it might happen earlier than you think. And it might happen before Florida State and Clemson make a move. You might get a package of teams going to the SEC. So keep an eye out for that because remember, the SEC went to a 9-game schedule. Right now, I don't think that works with their numbers. It works with the Big Ten numbers because I think the Big Ten has 18 or something like that. So it can work out. I think. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but it works out. But for whatever reason, I was told that the SEC scheduling does not work out. They can do predicted rivalries and it might work. I don't know if that's what they settled on or not. But one of the things that they had talked about is potentially bringing in UNC and another school to get that 9-game schedule worked out. I don't know what the other school is. But whenever they tell me it could happen before the Florida State and Clemson get figured out, I want to say the way they said it to me, this person, I don't think that those are the two schools. One of those two schools are going to go with them. I mean, honestly, I don't know. Like, would they go with a UNC and a Virginia? Would they grab UNC and Duke and say, well, the Big Ten has body bag teams. Let's pull them in. Right? Two basketball schools that we can kick the crap out of that, I mean, people are tuning in to watch Belichick, so this is a perfect opportunity.
Well, Virginia might make sense because they had recent basketball success that would help their basketball numbers. They can kind of get their teeth kicked in during football and be somewhat competitive for baseball season.
And that's been the school. UNC and Virginia have been the two that the Big Ten was eyeing when Delaney was still commissioner because it would get the Big Ten into two new states that are large, very large. It would connect physically to the conference. And the same would work for the SEC, right? They're in South Carolina with the Gamecocks. So all they have to do is add UNC and Virginia, and now their conference kind of expands up closer to Big Ten territory. And I think we shared the map on this show whenever that they last expanded a couple years ago. The Big Ten has way more population within their footprint. So to me, the SEC, you can't just add more South schools. Like you can't just get Clemson. You can't get Florida State. It's not expanding your footprint. ESPN right now is trying to get people to pay for streaming. Is it worth it though if they bring Duke into that? Right? To me, I don't know. Like if I was thinking it and it was my call, I would take UNC and Virginia for the reasons you mentioned. Heck, if they decide to go to the Big Ten, I think you immediately take NC State and Virginia Tech because you think these are teams that have a decent football following. Heck, UNC doesn't have as many football fans as NC State, and SEC is a football conference. You need teams that can consistently keep pulling fans in while they win 6 games a year. Otherwise, what are you doing? No one's going to watch your team play empty. Like the Big Ten has that issue. That's why all the big games are usually the same 5 teams, right?
Yeah.
They're not putting Illinois versus Northwestern on Big Noon. So that's what I've been told. The UNC is probably going to move. It kind of I mean, it kind of makes me sad if I'm being honest. I don't want NC State to be left behind and stuck in some conference that's going to be what? Are there going to just be 3 giant conferences? Is the ACC going to merge with like a Big 12? How many teams are going to jump? And how big do the SEC and Big 10 get? Because do they even make a move? Like if UNC and someone leaves, Notre Dame's not going to leave if they go to a 5-11 model where there's 11 auto bids or no, 11 at-large bids, because it doesn't make sense for them. They would get in maybe every year as long as they only have 1 loss. So they lose to Miami, right? Now they could go on the table. If they lose to Boise, I would think they're done.
But my thing is, I would like the fact that they lost to Miami, just to be like, you know what, you're not in a conference. That's going to be the toughest game on your schedule. You're done.
Well, last year they lost to a nobody, right? No offense, but they didn't. They shouldn't have been in last year, and they waited to the national championship game. So I think they're going to need at least 2 losses to be left out, maybe 3. As unfortunate as that is, because like you said, they get the preseason ranking in the top 10, and that's it. Before I move on, any other Florida State stuff you want to talk about? I know we talked about it a little bit.
I mean, we hit on it. It was just the way that they played was really convincing, and I felt like a year ago, that's a team that lets Alabama get back into the game, and they end up either scrambling for a last-minute field goal or, they're doing something crazy to try to blow the game. I was surprised when they went for it on 4th down in their own 30. They punched the first down out and then went on to score on that drive, because that was really a dagger for them. That it could have went the opposite direction. I like that they had the stones to go for it. It was the right call. They pushed the pile and got the yardage they needed to. I only was able to catch. I had to try to rewatch after the fact the first half, but I caught the second half, and it was like watching some of the Florida State of old, where like they were doing exactly what they wanted to do on both sides of the ball. It was refreshing to watch after how painful last year was.
And that's what happens whenever you can control the line of scrimmage. And so that's why I was very impressed with them. Like I said, I don't know why Florida's ranked ahead of them. I think they were in the latest AP poll.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, what are you doing? And the reason I want to talk about Florida State, because I had one more thing I want to talk about, and that's kind of like continuing on with the ESPN coverage stuff. I don't understand why the coverage of like Michigan's freshman quarterback, Bryce Underwood, hasn't been picked up by them as much as what it should be. Right? I thought I saw something where he's like the first freshman to come in and play in the first snap of a game as like a true freshman in like 50 years. And then I thought I was trying to research it to see if that was accurate. And ESPN has like no articles on him. And I thought if he would have went to LSU, dude, he would be everywhere. Because not only did he play well, he looked very good. And there were some plays, and I know that Michigan wasn't playing like a tough team, but there was a 3rd down and long where he hit a seam route that I haven't even seen some of the other quarterbacks. Like, honestly, I don't even know if Arch Manning could have hit that throw the way he played on Saturday. And this guy's a freshman? Like, the zip out of his arm is insane. He didn't even try to run. He threw for like 200-something yards, and they kind of just did. I mean, Sherrone Moore coach is very similar to Harbaugh. They get a lead. They kind of just sit on it. But you were talking about offensive coordinators. Having Chip Lindsey come in from UNC and having a real offensive coordinator, you can tell it's night and day. But on the other hand, Oklahoma played like an FCS school or whatever, beat them pretty good, right? Michigan plays at Oklahoma this week. After both teams played, the line has been just exploding in favor of Oklahoma, and I really don't know why. I haven't seen anything from Venables that makes me think like, all right, this team's like a killer. This Oklahoma team is going to be awesome. If anything, the SEC has looked awful. So this is another chance right now for the Big Ten to just shut down the SEC. And I know you having a freshman quarterback on the road in his second game ever against a ranked opponent is going to be tough. There's a good chance that Michigan loses. I'm not saying otherwise. But if Bryce has another good game, there's no way ESPN can ignore him again. I just don't see it. And if they do, then there's definitely a clear bias against the Big Ten. They have to talk about Ohio State because they beat Texas, right? You can't they kept Texas number 1 in their FPI or whatever that was, BPI thing that we talked about earlier. You can only do that if you hype up Ohio State, right? Because they want Texas in there. If Oklahoma beats Michigan and maybe they pull away, I don't know. We'll find out. It's really the only ranked game of the weekend. So it's the only game that's going to be big. And I think it's going to have a big impact. If the Big Ten wins this one too, look out. Because I've been saying there's a good chance we're looking at a Big Ten back-to-back-to-back national champs. And I think that during the one game I saw, the Big Ten hasn't even won back-to-back champs since the 40s. So the fact that they went back-to-back is insane with NIL stuff. And so if they go 3 in a row, I think the SEC has to be very worried. And if they're trying to just add UNC and some other school, do you rethink that? And try to grab a Florida State and Clemson? And say, you know what, we really got to get as many football schools in here as we can. But then again, if you're beating each other up, maybe they go back to the Big Ten auto bid, right? Where you say, all right, maybe we do need 4 teams automatically in the playoffs. That'll give us a fighting chance.
I mean, regardless, I feel like they have to decide what their qualifiers are going to be. And I think unless their end game is to go into the super conference where they're just going to have 2 super teams and then like regulate all the other ones, it makes the most sense to ride it out with the conferences that you're in and hope that you win it out until they make that move.
And that's the thing too. Yeah, you don't know. And the money thing is only going to be, I mean, it could be temporary. If your conference starts winning, like that's why I think the ACC really didn't help them. When Clemson won 2 championships and then they fell off, there was no one else to step in. And that's where right now you're seeing the depth. That's what the SEC used to have, where it was like, okay, Auburn's stepping up to win it. It's not just Alabama every year. Oh, here comes LSU. Oh, here's Georgia. And so they've had a handful of teams, different teams, win the championship. They bring in Texas and Oklahoma that have both won championships in the past like 30 years. The Big Ten brings in USC and Oregon. USC has won a championship. Oregon's been very close. They haven't got it done. And so now you have more consolidated power just between those 2 conferences. And really, if you're the ACC, you're begging Miami to step up because you're like, we've brought you in how many years ago? You guys have done absolutely nothing. What is the point of having you guys? Now NIL's here. You have no excuse. Otherwise, we're begging Florida State to get it done. So, I don't know. That's where I'm at. Anything else you want to talk about before we wrap up?
I think that's about it. Successful weekend of football.
And let's hope for good week 2. I'm hoping Bryce Underwood continues to play well. And we'll see if we're talking about his coming out party or how deer in headlights he looked on the road. So keep an eye out for that in the game of the week, and we will see you next week.